All right, welcome to Speak for Yourself. I'm Jason Whitlock. That's my new co-host, Marcellus Wiley. Coming up, we'll tell you what Sam Darnold's debut really means.
Plus, we'll dive into the mystery around Aaron Rodgers' injury. But we start today with the Whitlock. What you got, big dog?
I got John Gruden, and Gruden isn't the problem in Oakland. Cash is. The Raiders lost 33-13 on Monday Night Football to the cash-rich, free-spending Los Angeles Rams. Cash is king in the NFL, and Raiders owner Mark Davis is relatively cash poor until the Raiders move into their brand-new $2 billion playpen in Las Vegas. Los Angeles owner Stan Kroenke made it rain all offseason inside the Rams locker room. He stretched the salary cap with large signing bonuses to Todd Gurley, Aaron Donald, Brandon Cooks, and anyone else he thought could help the Rams win immediately while quarterback Jared Goff is on a rookie deal. Kroenke is worth about $8 billion. He made his money in real estate. His wife is a Walton, an heiress to the Walmart fortune. She's worth about $6 billion in change. Together, they own several sports franchises as hobbies. Mark Davis is worth around $400 to $500 million. The Davis family made their money in professional football. The actual business of football has to make sense for Davis and the Raiders. It's not easy for Davis to cut a check to Khalil Mack for $34 million on day of signing, especially when the Raiders have already paid their franchise quarterback. $34 million is what the Bears handed Mack day one, and an additional $26 million in guarantees over the first 3 years of Mack's contract. $60 million is more than 10% of Mark Davis's total wealth. You ever signed over 10 to 15% of your wealth? That hurts almost as much as a California divorce settlement. It's cheaper to keep Chucky. Much has been made of his 10-year, $100 million contract. It's a smart play. You pay Gruden $10 million a year to serve as the franchise's mascot. He's Marshawn Lynch without the dreads. Fans in Oakland love Gruden. He makes the franchise nationally relevant, and he makes them interesting on the field. I thought he outcoached Sean McVay and Wade Phillips last night. Gruden is working with next to nothing. He took a 31-year-old Jared Cook and made him look like the second coming of Tony Gonzalez. The Raiders led at halftime 13-10, primarily because the Rams didn't know how to cover a journeyman tight end who's never caught more than 54 passes in a season. Cook caught 9 last night for 180 yards. He's on pace to break all of Jerry Rice's records. 2 things doomed the Raiders last night. Derek Carr wet the bed and tossed 3 interceptions. But even worse, without Khalil Mack, the Raiders gave McVay and Jared Goff too much time to figure out what to do offensively. Goff stood in the Rams' pocket without a care in the world. He had time to survey the field, clip his fingernails, order from DoorDash, and organize a search party for missing teammate Ndamukong Suh. We'll get into this later, Marcellus, but did Suh ever leave the line of scrimmage last night? Gruden and the Brooklyn Raiders likely won't be playoff qualifiers this year and next. It's going to be rough, and you'll hear a lot of talk about the game passing him by. I don't see it. Cash rules everything around Gruden. He's going to rise like cream when the Raiders get to Las Vegas.
This essay is interesting because I wanted to give you a fail. I wanted to, but you start tugging at my heartstrings, man. All those Wu-Tang references, I couldn't give you an F on this one. So I give you an incomplete. Incomplete. You framed a financial argument based on net worth when you know in the NFL they have a hard cap. So if they have a hard cap, guess what? We all have the same ceiling and we all have the same floor since they also have a minimum cap. Every team in NFL can spend up to $177 million on this roster, the ceiling. And then the floor is you have to spend 95% of that. So your net worth is out the door. Your financial hardships personally are out the door once you qualify as an owner. So as you call it, Brokeland is not as broke as you want to make it sound because they can still write the same checks under the NFL's financial laws that a Kroenke can, and they just chose not to do it.
Here's where we have just a major disagreement, and I've disagreed with the league. I disagreed with Carl Peterson when he was running the Chiefs and Clark Hunt, with the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs. This is what I believe about the salary cap. y'all players, to some degree, have fallen for the okie dokie. Y'all believe in a hard cap.
Okay.
I don't. I believe it's all about cash up front. If an owner is willing to hit $34 million, he can stretch the cap, and it can be as elastic as anything on the planet. And that's why the Rams were sitting out there, yeah, we'll take Khalil Mack. Because Kroenke is worth so much money, and he's willing to spend so much up front that he'll stretch the cap, and it's the most elastic thing on the planet, and then they'll make moves a year or two later down the road to fix the cap when the cap hits start coming. And so I just think Kroenke and a lot of the rest of the guys around the league have made billions in other industries. Al Davis and now his son, they made their money in football.
Okay.
And the business has to work. And so I looked out there and saw the whole John Gruden thing to me. I watched it last night, and I go, you know what? This makes sense. He adds some gravitas to the Oakland Raiders. He makes them a national story. There's a way to talk about it. And then just in terms of coaching last night, I thought, particularly in the first half, until, it just got out of hand, I thought he really outcoached Sean McVay and Wade Phillips. I thought he took Jared Cook, shoved him down their throat, stayed in that game, and had a chance to win when the gap in talent was enormous. That should have been a blowout from word go.
Okay, you just wrote another essay because you know what? You try to counter my argument with a conspiracy theory. It may make you feel good emotionally, but I'm being fact-based up here. So there is a hard cap. There is a minimum salary cap. Beyond that, let's talk about if we're going to make a correlation between your net worth and what you can spend on your salary and your roster. The richest owner in football is the Cleveland Browns, and then followed by the Seattle Seahawks and the Cleveland Browns. I mean, the Carolina Panthers.
No. The Haslam's not.
No, Carolina Panthers.
Paul Allen is the richest.
Right.
Gotcha.
Didn't we just hear the Seattle Seahawks have to pay a Russell Wilson to say bye to the Legion of Doom? Like, now, if you say bye to the Legion of Doom and you're the richest owner in sports, how come you're not manipulating the salary cap, as you say in your conspiracy theory, to write more checks going forward?
Not worth it. Not worth. Have you? Richard Sherman torn Achilles. Michael Bennett, a lot of wear on his tires.
Still a baller.
Cam Chancellor, injury, whatever. Again, it's not where Earl Thomas is pushing 30 or is 30. I just don't. I think they're at a point where they feel like it's not worth it. And look, not everybody that's rich is, hey, like I'm gonna throw my cash around. Some people are a bit more stingy.
But there is a minimum cap for those reasons. But let's talk about the fan base. And you're saying they try to appease the fan base by giving them Chucky. Now, here's the thing. Here's the problem with the Raiders organization under Mark Davis, which has manipulated this franchise over the years to the point where its fan base should be upset with ownership. They have not won a division title since 2002. This is not a winning organization. Just win, baby. That baby's old. That baby's grown. That baby has not won in a long time. And you're thinking about trying to get a John Gruden. He's sitting there comfortable with air conditioning on in the Monday Night Football booth. And they sit there and say, we have to get Chucky. But the optics can't look like he's a stopgap just to market us to Las Vegas. So what do? Which most people do when they lie and get caught in a lie? They go to the extreme. You don't give a coach in a non-guaranteed sport a 10-year contract, because then that same coach comes in day one. Oh, my defensive star, future Hall of Famer? I ain't calling him. Oh, my all-pro punter? I ain't calling him. Matter of fact, I'm going to cut him before I even meet him. He's so comfortable in his position that you're saying that they're not spending the money. I'm saying they don't care to spend the money. All they care about is moving.
I think on Marquette King, the punter, I think you're right. I think that was Gruden coming in and punching a guy, toughest guy in the prison. I'm going to take him out.
Yeah.
As it relates to Khalil Mack, I just think that's an organizational decision. And I'm really not speculating. I'm talking about people connected to the Raiders organization have told me quite clearly Mark Davis is not just cutting that kind of mammoth check after he's already done it for Derek Carr and he's done it for John Gruden. I was right there with you. We talked about this, I think, last week, just personally. I was right there with you, like, this John Gruden thing is probably a bad move. What you don't do this to play 10 years and all that safety and comfort. You don't provide that.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, off of last night, I was like, I get it And I think John Gruden is going to take a lot of bullets over the next 2 years, and people are going to say he's comfortable and he's got too nice of a contract. But I saw a guy last night that came in instantly with a bad roster, had an immediate impact. The Rams are the best roster in football, very impressive last year, weapons everywhere, and the Raiders stayed in this game for a long time, and Derek Carr was miserable. And so I give a lot of that credit to John Gruden, and I don't think he's back for comfort reasons or because they rained so much money on him. I think the guy has a chip on his shoulder and is just as hungry as he's ever been as a coach.
Look, they were amped up. The energy, the mojo, the passion, that exuded from this team, and I respect that. And you're going to do that when you're playing for John Gruden at home in Oakland. But you know what also happened? They lost to a team that was having their first preseason game because the Rams didn't play any of their starters in the preseason. They came out there rusty, straight off of the mattress, and it took them a half to wake up. And then when they did wake up, they beat them boys down.
They outscored them.
and beat them up.
But I don't know if they really I thought what they did with Gurley and all, but we'll get into that in a minute. But I'll just say that we'll end. You're saying you're not betting on John Gruden being successful here in the long run in Oakland?
No, because if you give up Khalil Mack for 2 first-rounders, first you have to draft well. Let's see how that plays out. And also, you're banking on the future. So why do I make an assessment right now in the present when I need to see who you're bringing on this roster? You're walking out there with the oldest roster in NFL.
I agree.
You're trying to zig when everyone else is zagging? Let's see how it plays out.
I think that's a move for right now. When they get to Las Vegas, I think they're going to be all in. They're going to be spending money. They're going to acquire players. And I think there's a handful of coaches that have a real impact in the NFL.
Yes, I agree.
And I think that 3 to 5 of them.
Okay.
And I think John Gruden's one of them. We saw proof of it last night. All right, welcome back. Marcellus and I are joined by Fox NFL analyst Tony Gonzalez and Mark Schlereth. It's time for some big stories. Let's return to Oakland, where the Rams got off to a slow start, but ended up putting it on the Raiders last night, 33-13, with Jared Goff and the offense turning it on in the second half. And while their so-called dream team defense only gave up 13 points and forced 3 turnovers out of Derek Carr, I still wasn't that impressed.
Okay.
I saw nothing from Ndamukong Suh. I saw Aaron Donald make one play. I thought he was effective. He made one play and the ref stole it from him. It was a sack. How is she going to sack a guy on the knee but hit him in the knees? But I thought linebackers were horrendous. And that's why Jared Cook ran wild and they ended up having to put Aqib Talib on a 31-year-old journeyman tight end. And so I just sluggish, overconfident. I didn't even like Sean McVay when Marcus Peters gets the interception at the end. The game was already decided. Sean McVay running down there after the dude hot dogged it in the end zone and all that, celebrating and kissing Marcus Peters' rear end. I'm still not all in on the Rams.
I'm all in on the Rams, and they proved it to me because they took a slumber in the first half because of the preseason rust. Then they came out in the second half, self-corrected, and started to put it on Oakland. I go back to last year when you watched the New England Patriots lose that first game at home. Everyone was like, whoa, what's going on with the Patriots? How did that turn out? And this is a situation where star meets stars in terms of you get a Marcus Peters with a Aqib Talib, you get an Ndamukong Suh with Aaron Donald. You know how it always goes in the locker room and on the film. Everyone's so courteous. Everyone's so cordial. It takes that moment. Let's go back to the Miami Heat. LeBron James, when he finally joined Dwayne Wade, who's his best friend. And after 17 games, they're a 500 team, 9-8 basically. And they're basically battling whose house is this and who gets the master bedroom, because LeBron is sitting there like, I'm the better player. I need to be able to tell you in harsh terms what's up. And it takes time for that to gel together to get that chemistry. What you saw with the Rams last night was rust. What you're going to see in the short term is that cordial chemistry finally getting raw and them breaking it down. That's when this team has its breakthrough, and you're going to see this team's going to be a contender.
Yeah, I am all in on the Rams. Their talent.
Based off last night.
Based off last night. Their talent. Now understand this. You look at the inside 3 players, Kelechi Osemele. you look at Rodney Hudson, and you look at Gabe Jackson. Those are three of the best offensive linemen in football. So, you know, I look at Ndamukong Suh and I look at Brockers, and they've got great guys. Aaron Donald is, in my opinion, one of the best players in all of football, well, maybe the best defensive player in football. But I thought their linebacking core flew around. I thought they tackled exceptionally well, albeit not on the tight end. I'll give you that. They missed some coverages on the tight end. But the bottom line, they got two corners who are not afraid of anything. They will run up, they'll hit you, they'll tackle you. They got the same thing at the safety position, and their linebackers can fly. I think they are as talented a group, and Wade Phillips will have these guys playing exceptional football. And the one thing they have, they've got two guys that can lock you up in man coverage on the outside and say, now what? Like, we're going to let our guys go. This group, and Marcellus is right, they didn't play. This group, as it starts to play,
right?
Like, nobody in football wants to line up against the Rams right now on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, you see what they did to Amari Cooper. They're talking about those two cornerbacks.
Right.
I mean, they kind of locked him up, and we knew all year, all preseason, that he's going to be that guy, that deep threat in that offense for the Raiders. But I agree with you a little bit. I think they came out just overconfident. They came out there, look, we're going to show up and just going to write our names, and we're going to be good, and we're going to be great. And then Oakland came out there and gave it to them in that first half, especially with those couple physical runs. But going forward, it's going to come around. They got too much talent. Wade Wilson, that coach, is going to get these guys together. That's the only thing stopping them. Wade Phillips.
Yeah. But look, you brought up Suh. If you watch Suh over his career, he's not a sack artist. He averages 6.5 sacks a year. You know what that means in real numbers in real games? Every 3 games, you get 1 sack. That's what Ndamukong Suh is. And ask Miami about Ndamukong Suh. They knew that he morphed into something different than the 10-plus sacks he had in his rookie year. And Jared Cook, balling out of control, that was a trap set by Wade Phillips. You know why it was a trap? Because as well as he performed, 2 of those 3 interceptions went where? Trying to force it to him in the end zone, and then a pick 6 by Marcus Peters. Wade Phillips said, your receivers are done. 5 catches, 43 yards. Throw it to Cook all you want and try to beat us that way.
I'll say my issue with Ndamukong Suh and his effort, it's just like it's a poison because I'm not counting sacks. Okay. I'm counting effort. And I watched him like I used to watch Chester McLaughlin in Kansas City. Yeah. And sometimes you get these oversized, overly talented Albert Haynesworth, Ndamukong Suh, Chester McLaughlin. They got all the talent in the world. And Mark played against Chester McLaughlin a lot of times, I would imagine. The dude was lazy, and he would lay down. And Ndamukong Suh got all the talent in the world, but you set that poison in the middle of your defense because everybody watches the film, and I was watching the game, and I like to watch line play. The effort wasn't there from Suh. This is your first – you trying to get a new contract next year and trying to – I didn't see it there against the Oakland team that's not that good. And then I just think the Rams on offense, and Gurley's a beast, and I like Jared Goff more and more every time I see him. But they faced no pass rush pressure yesterday at all. They could do whatever the hell they wanted to do offensively, particularly in the second half. I just don't think it was much of a test. Look, the Rams have the talent to be good, but sometimes I think you can have too much talent. Our next big story is last night's early game where Sam Darnold and the Jets demolished Matt Stafford and the Lions 48-17. Darnold's first pass went for a pick 6, but he rebounded to throw a couple of touchdowns and didn't seem too worried about the rocky start.
It was one of those where right when I let it go, I thought I had him, and then out of the corner, right when I released it, I saw the defender and just thought, oh, shoot. On that interception, I was pretty nervous. I'm not going to lie to you guys, but after that, put it behind me. I hate to say it, but those types of things are going to happen in the first game. Just kind of starting to get a rhythm with all the guys, and I'll start hitting those throws. But other than that, I thought I played pretty well.
I got to be honest. The most impressive thing there, I thought he was wearing shoulder pads. It took me a while to figure out, like, my God.
Big dude, huh?
Yeah. All right, to the New York Daily News, they celebrated the win in classic New York tabloid style with the headline, "Wham, bam, thank you, Sam." I'm not ready to go there just yet. Oh. I have fallen in love with young quarterbacks in their first game. Carson Wentz comes to mind early. First time I ever saw him, I was like, oh, blew my mind.
You're not in love with him still?
Oh, no, I still like Carson Wentz. No, I still like Carson Wentz. But I'm saying, so I'm open to the possibility of, like, seeing a rookie quarterback and going, damn, I ain't seen it. I didn't get that feeling last night from Sam. I thought it was good, but he didn't blow my mind, and I just want to pump the brakes. I want to show you what the New York Daily News does to every quarterback that has a good first game. That's Geno Smith and Mark Sanchez, A Star Is Born. We've seen this before from the New York Daily News.
Yeah, well, let me just say this.
Get him.
With this kid, one thing you have to understand is, yeah, they don't blow you away, or he didn't blow you away the way he played, but that's by design. Talking to the Jets coaches, they understand exactly who he is. This kid is a hard worker, unbelievable athlete. He's got the love of, and just admiration of his football team because he came in there and earned it. And they understand that you're going to make mistakes as a rookie. So they are going to run the ball. They're going to run a West Coast wide zone, boot keep, take advantage of his athleticism. Talking to their coaches, he has got an unbelievably quick release, and he spins the ball super tight. They say he can be late with a throw and still get it there. They are on this. But Todd Bowles was a teammate of mine in Washington. Todd Bowles understands what they're going to have to do. 21 passes. That's it. They put 48 points on the board. 21 times they allowed him to drop back. That's coaching. That's saying we understand that we have a young kid. We're going to get him outside on the edge. He had a boot keep that was a first down that he scrambled on. We're going to get him out on the edge. We're going to make sure that we give him a half-field read and get him out there on a boot keep game. We are going to take this. We're going to give him opportunities to be you walk into the game with that style of offense, you're going to be 6 for 6 right off the bat just on the boot keep game. So we are also, and if we're only going to throw it 21 times, you're already 6 for 6. Guess what? You're going to give us a chance to win. That's what they're going to do with Sam Darnold. That's why he's going to be successful this year.
Yeah, look, I think we're missing why he is special and why they see such greatness in him. The tangibles, his Madden rating is off the charts in terms of talent. Let's be real. But it's the mental makeup. It's the intangibles. This is a guy who's a 2.0 quarterback. That's the next level that's coming. Aaron Rodgers on next. If you look at the collegiate high school level, these athletes that are playing quarterback that are not compromising their arm because of their legs. He's that guy. He can improv. But also, it's the mental makeup. Not just on the field as a leader, being around him. I actually got a chance to meet him. I was talking to his school, and he's a broadcast student in class, and this is the week before he started. So this is before the world knew Sam Darnold. And this is a guy that gets it. And this was the example that told me he got it. When you talk about New York to most guys, a Mark Sanchez or some guys, they all say this to try to sound PC. Oh, I'm not living in New York. I'm not going to New York. New York doesn't exist. And I don't want to hear that. And then I hear some other guys say, oh, yeah, I moved to downtown Manhattan, man. It's on. I still know how to focus. And don't want to hear that. You hear a guy like Sam Darnold talk, he knows how to juggle. He knows the balancing act. And I think his teammates have seen enough of a guy who really gets it. And finally, it's like, we're buying into this guy. With those talents that he possesses and that mental makeup, he's going to be.
Yeah, he's a blue-collar dude. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. Well, yeah. First of all, I'm with you. Come on, let's pump the brakes. I'm not. The question is, too soon to crown him. No, Peyton Manning came in with 3-15, whatever his record was. Led the league in interceptions. I'm not judging anybody off of one game, especially a rookie quarterback. So I'm just going to wait a little bit. He looked good last night, but I was more impressed with the defense. And I was more disappointed with what the offense was doing for the Detroit Lions. I just think he was in a great position last night, but I got to see it going forward.
But that's what I'm saying. Todd Bowles is going to continue to put him in a great position. I think Todd Bowles is a hell of a football coach that probably never had the talent to actually win there until now as they're starting to amass that talent.
Well, let's not use that against them because Tom Brady in his first year starting in the Super Bowl win was still in a protected space as well. You asked him to go out there, manage the games, if you want to call it that. This is a team yesterday, the Jets, that scored on offense, defense, and special teams all in 2.5 minutes.
Marcellus just said Sam Darnold's taken to the Super Bowl.
I didn't say that.
No, that's what you said. That's what
Carson Palmer said that.
Carson Palmer did say that.
Carson Palmer said that.
And it's a good analogy, or some of what you all are saying. It reminds me of when Big Ben came onto the field.
Sure, right.
And they protected him, and he won a bunch of games without putting up big numbers, and they had a great defense. And so I'm with Tony. That was my other point, was like, no, I thought Todd Bowles' defense was very impressive. The Lions' defense, unimpressive. Their offense, unimpressive. I thought Todd Bowles, in terms of the way he handled Sam Darnold, not putting too much on his plate, I was more impressed with that than Sam Darnold. And that's not a knock on Sam Darnold, but I didn't see the second coming of Carson Wentz last night. Maybe we'll see it next week. All right, welcome back. Marcellus and I. Let's move to a huge story outside the NFL this weekend. Serena Williams, who not only lost in the U.S. Open final to Naomi Osaka on Saturday, but also got fined $17,000 for a verbal altercation with the chair umpire, Carlos Ramos, over his decision to dock Serena a game for repeated code violations. Take a listen.
Are you kidding me? Because I said you're a thief. Because you stole a point from me. But I'm not a cheater. But why? But I told you to apologize to me. But you know how many other men do things that are, I don't think they do much worse than that. This is not fair. There's a lot of men out here that have said a lot of things, and because they're men, that doesn't happen to them.
A number of people came to Serena's defense after the incident, including Andy Roddick, who tweeted, quote, "So I'll only comment on the sport that I played professionally for 13 years. I've said worse and never got a penalty in my entire career. I don't care how long he's been a referee, mistakes happen, and I believe he made one. Serena certainly wasn't perfect either." Serena doubled down on the double standard theme during her post-match press conference.
I've seen other men call other umpires several things, and I'm here fighting for women's rights and for women's equality and for all kinds of stuff. And for me to say thief and for him to take a game, it made me feel like it was a sexist remark. I mean, like, how he's never took a game from a man because they said thief. For me, it blows my mind. I just feel like the fact that I have to go through this is just an example for the next person that has emotions and that want to express themselves and they want to be a strong woman, and they're going to be allowed to do that because of today. Maybe it didn't work out for me, but it's going to work out for the next person.
A lot to unpack here, Marcellus.
Yeah.
I think there's enough blame to go around for everybody. I think that, I always say about officials, particularly in the biggest games, let the people on the court decide it. No one's there to see the chair umpire or the referee in basketball. And so I agree with the people that say Carlos Ramos overreacted and did too much. I also agree with the people, though, that say there's a way to handle adversity, and Serena didn't handle it well and created an international incident, and it's something that overshadowed this young woman from Japan at 20 years old, winning her first major, that Serena's handling of the umpire overshadowed a great moment and a great victory. Serena was getting beat. She got beat in the first set, got her butt whipped pretty good, and I think that frustration just blew up into an incident, and I see blame on both sides, but I'll stop there and continue.
Yeah, tons of layers to this story right here. As you said, the blame pie, everybody getting a piece, you know, in that respect. The moment of altercation with an official is not necessarily the time to have the trial, in that moment. We could apply that to other facets of life as well. But the thing that I do support with Serena and what she was saying is she was trying to make a distinction between being graded on standard or being graded on a curve. Because if she's looking at it like, there's a double standard here, because if we're just saying, hey, no one talks to the officials, that's man and woman. If we're saying, hey, you can talk to the officials and you can have energy, passion, you can go there on an official, then if that's the standard, what did I do wrong? But if you're grading it on a curve, which is like, oh, men get away with certain things, and we saw it exampled in the clothing change, where a point's assessed as penalty to a woman who's making a clothing change, but to a man, he's not assessed the same penalty. So I understand where she's coming from. The hypocrisy had boiled over to her to the point where she wanted to take issue.
I get it, but I also think it's a know your personnel. If you're a student of the game,
Preach.
Carlos Ramos's reputation is well documented. I'm not a tennis expert.
No.
I'm someone that watches Serena Williams matches and ignores the rest of tennis. And I think a lot of people discussing this are just like me. We watch tennis when Serena's playing, and we ignore the rest of tennis. And so I think a lot of our opinions are ill-informed. And then when I see people, are they actually doing the homework and the research? This umpire's reputation, well established with men. Rafael Nadal, quoted a couple years ago, feeling like this ref or this umpire had it in for him.
Yes.
And has picked on him. Quoted New York Times everywhere talking about this particular umpire. This particular umpire he's got a quick whistle, or, he will penalize you more quickly than any place else. And so where I blame Serena is like, well, you got the first warning, and that was the inappropriate warning for the coaching.
Right.
Everybody, the coaching warning he made was doing too much. But it's like when a referee gives you a bad technical in an NBA game, and well, now I got to be real extra careful, because if I get a second one, I'm tossed out of the game. So once you got the bad technical, yellow card, foul, whatever, you can't break your racket.
Right.
Because you can't slam your racket and break your racket, because the ref now, based on the rules, has no choice but to assess a second penalty, and that a second penalty is the loss of a point and all that. And so she had, again, to me, this is Draymond Green, this is Charles Barkley, this is a player that's a bit too emotional. And I just want to be clear here in terms of there's plenty of players, Nadal, from McEnroe to everybody, they've all been, if you're an emotional player, these umpires get after you. It's not just a man thing. And so I sometimes think we overlook incompetence and go straight to personal attack. Oh my God, that person wasn't incompetent. They attacked me because I'm a woman, or because I'm black, or because I'm Latino. Sometimes it's just incompetence.
Okay, I get that. Look, not all the time is race or gender motivation for your actions, but all the times it's considered when it's talking about penalty and punishment. Because if you look at it, the race issue here, I think, is minimal. I think that's a stretch to a large degree. But the gender issue, I think she has a valid and correct point in, if I go to the courts and I'm watching the male counterparts go out there and perform, and they're getting away with everything. I mean, left side, right side of their mouth, it doesn't matter. As long as it comes out your mouth, it's fine. And then I go to that same place, and then all of a sudden, the penalty, all of a sudden, the punishment. That's when the race and gender comes into play, especially the gender place. So I'm looking at it like you said it, emotion. We all try to contain it, but the emotional context of any match, especially the U.S. Open, good luck trying to contain that, because you feel like everything's on the line, especially as you're trying to break the most majors won. So this mounting pressure and the comeback, everything. I just look at Serena in that moment, and she's going to have some regret, because she's going to say, I just got upset and over-emotional facing the 20-year-old who was already putting it on me. Like, that's what's gotten lost. Serena lost 6-2, 6-4. Serena didn't lose 7-5. It wasn't close, and she made it worse.
She was doing well in the second set, I think up 3-1 when things went sideways. I'll say this, Serena is arguing that she's fighting for women's rights, and that part of her stance here is so that women get treated like men. Martina Navratilova wrote a very good piece for the New York Times today that I thought made a great point, and it's a point that I ask people all the time. What are we really fighting for? Are we fighting so that we can make all the mistakes and do all the bad things others do? And if that's the case, is that really a fight worth having? And so Martina's point was like, it's like when your kids get in trouble and they say, well, Jimmy and them, they smoke weed. You just caught me with a beer. And it's pointing all over to every other kid and blah, blah, blah. Every other kid's doing this. That's something that you're supposed to grow out of by the time you're in your late 30s and you're a parent. And so this whole thing of, oh, well, McEnroe and Jimmy Connors and this guy and that guy did it. And so I'm not, and this is where I get crossways with a lot of people about my point of view. And this will be a harsh statement. I'm not fighting to do the bad things white guys do. That's not my fight in life. I'm actually fighting to represent my family and the people I care about, and to represent, quite honestly, God in a way that brings honor to my family and the church that I grew up in. And I've made a lot of mistakes, a lot of public mistakes, but I'm willing to claim them, own them, and not sit there and say, well, so-and-so got to do this and so-and-so got to do that. Why can't I do it? When you make a mistake, own it.
Yeah, let's get nuanced, because I like the fact that you brought that layer up. I took exception what Martina Navratilova said, because in totality, she's internalized the discrimination against the women in the sport. Like, she's accepted it to a point where she says, well, they get away with it, but why would we want to get away with the same thing? And you could take that to other facets of life and say, ooh, that's not a good place to be. I respect what you're saying. Like, I don't want to be as bad as someone on the other side in terms of race or in gender, because I don't want to play down to my lower self.
Yeah.
But one level of equality and fairness is, if I do play down to that level, am I being harshly punished or justly punished? Serena is saying, I wasn't justly punished, because the men do the same thing, and man after man in the tennis world has tweeted that we get away with it.
I agree, but man after man after man isn't the greatest player of all time, like Serena is.
True, different
Man after man after man doesn't have the history of demonstrative behavior that Serena does. The only person I would maybe analogize her to, and I don't think she's as far as McEnroe was, but again, it's just like when I say people aren't really doing the homework and people are jumping in brand new to this topic, because again, I'm not a tennis expert, but I spent the past 2 days just like researching,
right,
trying to get some context. In 1981, John McEnroe won Wimbledon. And when you win Wimbledon, they make you an honorary member of the Wimbledon Lawn Club and Croquet Club.
Okay.
They publicly announced, we're not putting you in because your behavior brings disrepute to tennis. And so they wouldn't let him in the All England Lawn Club because they felt like his behavior was so bad, so tough, they didn't want to be associated with it. That's a white man they did that to. And so for anybody that's got revisionist history that John McEnroe didn't pay a price for being over the top and all the history, it's just wrong and inappropriate. And so just imagine if Wimbledon had done that to Serena. And they just, people's heads would melt and explode and we'd have a civil war. And so I just think when you're the greatest player of all time, you sit on that throne, there's a higher expectation. There's some things you have to carry, and particularly when you get to age 35, 36 like Serena, and you're a mom and you're a wife and things like that. I just don't want her, I don't want the fight to be, I want to act as bad as John McEnroe and some of these guys. I want the fight to be, I'm going to leave you all with no doubt. Not only am I the greatest player, I'm the greatest person you ever seen in this sport.
Oh, you want to Frankenstein an athlete, which is so difficult because her gift at times is her curse. I mean, that's what makes the greats great. You have to go to a place that is of psychosis. Kobe, Jordan, like they go to weird places and we don't get it because we're not there. But where they are creates greatness.
Marcellus, I'm a person that went to some real nutty places and had to learn some real hard lessons.
Yes, yes.
Because I was a nut. At some point, you got to grow up. Yesterday, the Cowboys owner told the world, his coaching staff, and most importantly, his quarterback, that he's lost faith in Dak Prescott as a passing QB.
We have a dimension in Dak being able to run the ball. You saw what Cam Newton does with that. Norv Turner can be as traditional a play caller as you can ever imagine, was doing a great job of using Cam. We've got a quarterback that is somewhere between the one that you saw with the Rams last night and Cam Newton. He can do some of what both of those guys do.
There's only one reason to compare Dak to Cam. Jerry watched the Cowboys' abysmal offensive performance against the Carolina Panthers on Sunday and decided Dak Prescott cannot beat anyone with his arm this season. Oh boy, this is a major problem. Dak Prescott is not Cam Newton.
Preach.
Cam Newton is the Rob Gronkowski of quarterbacks. Cam is a 6'6", 260-pound freak of nature who can leap tall buildings with a single bound. Dak Prescott is a 6'2", 230-pound guy who in his very best moments reminds you of Warren Moon, but could probably best be analogized to Joe Theismann or Rich Gannon. Since Dak and Zeke led the Cowboys to an 11-game winning streak in 2016, they've gone 11-11 since. That's average. That's mediocre. Dak has been average to mediocre, too, since the 2016 season. The Dallas Morning News pointed out this morning that Dak threw 2 interceptions during the Cowboys' 11-game winning streak. He's thrown 16 INTs in the following 22 games. But this is not the time for Jerry Jones to inadvertently back a truck over Dak. No way. Dak jumped in Jerry's national anthem foxhole at the beginning of this season. He publicly joined his owner in the most divisive issue in all of professional sports.
I never protest during the anthem, and I don't think that's the time or the venue to do so. The game of football has always brought me such a peace, and I think it does the same for a lot of people. A lot of people playing the game, a lot of people watching the game, a lot of people that have any impact of the game. So when you bring such a controversy to the stadium, to the field, to the game, it takes away from that. It takes away from the joy and to the love that football brings a lot of people. I'm up for taking a next step, that whatever that step may be, for action and not just kneeling. I've always believed standing up for what I believe in, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
You cannot sell this kid out. After that, Jerry, you can't sign Dak up to endure the kind of physical pounding that Cam endures. Dak's not Superman. He's more like the Black Panther. You have to supply him with a strong supporting cast and a bunch of gadgets. And you damn sure can't screw with his confidence after week 1, not when he's shown you the kind of loyalty he has. Jerry owes Dak a level of loyalty that is rare in professional sports. Dak needs a couple of playmakers added to the roster and a bunch of excuses offered to the media.
Preach.
Marcellus, what looks worse in Dallas, Dak's play or Jerry's mouth?
What looks worse, huh? Great question, tough question. But what looks worse? Because if you look at this, Dak Prescott needs some things. And the thing he needs is weapons. But what's not going to change, what's not going anywhere, what's a staple of the Dallas organization is Jerry Jones's mouth. That's just as important to the Dallas organization as a star.
Not winning. It's not important to winning. It may be important to the brand, but not winning.
Exactly. And Jerry Jones has always kept the brand coupled with winning. He's always married to two. I'm looking at Dak Prescott, and I'm saying, I feel sorry for you. I'm looking at a guy who right now, because of Dak Prescott and the lack of weaponry he has around him. You talk about no arsenal. You're talking about my number 1 receiver potentially is Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley had a great year 2 years ago in the presence of Dez Bryant being double covered in those situations. Now Cole Beasley is out there saying between Dak Prescott, Allen Hurns, et cetera, that's not a starting receiving core in the NFL. So Jerry Jones knows he goes nowhere. He knows his mouth goes nowhere. Dak Prescott's the one who needs help. He's the one saying, please help me in this situation.
I love Jerry Jones. I'm a supporter of Jerry Jones. I've never been more disappointed. When Dak Prescott steps out into that national anthem controversy and basically locks arms with Jerry Jones on that, all bets are off this season. You have to support this kid blindly. And particularly not after week. And I watched the Carolina-Dallas game, every drop of it. Dak did not look good. I get it. And it would shake an owner's confidence.
Yeah.
And it would. But that's got to be all in-house. You can't let a loose lip sink a ship. And so I think Jerry probably thinks I'm being positive. Hey, he reminds me of Jared Goff and Cam Newton, and he can run, guys. I know he looked terrible passing, but he can run. He thinks he might be saying something positive, but anybody with a brain could see Dak can't run like that, and you're clearly saying he can't win the game with his arm, so we now need him to run, and that's signing him up for a suicide mission.
Well, you watched the game. I watched the game on Fox, our network right here, and our own Troy Aikman said it, and then Jerry Jones paraphrased it. Be creative. Jerry Jones saw with his own eyes Cam Newton run around, and he's like, last time I checked, Dak Prescott can run some, a little, not Cam Newton level, but he can run some. So now Jerry Jones is putting that pressure on the organization, putting that pressure on the play calling, whether it's Jason Garrett, Scott Linehan, somehow, some way he wants this directive to be executed. Think about it. In Seattle, the 12th man is the crowd noise. In Dallas, it's Jerry Jones's mouth. And Jerry Jones is just looking at this team and saying, I don't care about hook or crook. Get this done. And when I see elements of my team that can be better executed, I want it done. And it could be week one to Jerry Jones, and he'll still apply that pressure.
Okay. Is it fair to Dak Prescott? How should Dak receive that advice? He's basically in a contract year. They got him for one more year after this, but normally this is the time you would extend a quarterback or a draft pick with a year left on his contract. He's in a contract year. The owner clearly has just done stepped out. We want you to run the ball. That's risk of injury. That's not playing to his strength. No. I just don't see him as a running guy. So if I'm Dak, I hear this is like, hey, man, it's week one, and we got off to a rough start, and now I got to adjust? What about you adjusting? What I need pieces. I need a head coach with a creative game plan that supports me and makes things easier for me. I don't have that. Jerry seems more loyal to Jason Garrett than Dak Prescott. And to me, Dak Prescott has shown Jerry Jones more loyalty than anybody in that organization. I love you, Jerry. I just don't like this.
You made a great point in the essay saying don't sell him out right now, especially when that same player, Dak Prescott, is hearing the echoes of being a sellout because he's on the same side with a Jerry Jones. That's just the way that the world is spinning this. And if you look at Dak Prescott, his first 2 years, look at his comps. You know what his comps look like? The names of Andrew Luck and Cam Newton come to mind. Tom Brady's even in a protected space in a different way, but by numbers. I'm talking about touchdowns. I'm talking about interceptions. Dak protects the ball. Of late, he's not been the same guy he was early, but in a 2-year comp, look up the numbers, he has more touchdowns than Cam Newton, fewer interceptions than Cam Newton. The same guy that Jerry Jones is now comparing them to in the sense of you need to be more like him. I think this directive was that Jason Garrett, more so than looking at Dak Prescott, because he's saying we need to be creative. Creativity doesn't come from the players. That's insubordination. It comes from the play calling, Garrett Linehan.
I want to pin you down there because you just made an interesting point.
Let's go.
Maybe I heard it wrong, and it's more about Jason Garrett. And so you would say, again, we're not beating up on Dak, but you would say maybe Dak's play is worse than Jerry's mouth?
I would say Dak's play is going to be considered worse. Perception is reality here because the constant in Dallas is Jerry Jones's mouth. They've dealt with hiccups all the time. This is a Super Bowl contended team. No, they weren't. They won a playoff team. Oh, well, Romo, we can do it all. No, you can win in the playoff game maybe once. And that's what's always been a constant with the Dallas Cowboys, through high and through lows. So Dak is going to be the scapegoat, and he's going to be the guy who has to take this blame. After week one, I don't want to jump off the Dak ship because I remember the first 2 years, and they were good years. But he doesn't have the same things to work with. You got a guy in Ezekiel Elliott who is a tremendous workhorse. You got injuries up front. You had nothing on the outside.
No tight end.
No tight end, no presence of someone who has star ability at receiver. So therefore, what is Dak to do? You need to be creative. And this takes me to a situation close to home for both of us, the LA Rams. I was a staunch supporter of Jeff Fisher. Lost to his Titans when I played, respected him as a head coach. And I saw him come out to Los Angeles with a team that I knew had young talent. He had Jared Goff, he just drafted. He also had a young Todd Gurley who was a beast. To the tune of 4-12, suppressing that offense, I looked at that team, I said, something has to change. And what did they change? They changed the coach. And once they changed the coach, all of a sudden that Jared Goff, that Todd Gurley, reemergence, and everything changed in that culture. Went from last to first in terms of offensive production. Jason Garrett, I think you heard loud and clear what Jerry Jones was saying. You more so than Dak Prescott's on that hot seat.
You've blown my mind a little bit because at no point during the day when I saw this did I ever think it was a shot at Jason Garrett. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it could be a two-way shot at Garrett and a little like, hey, Dak's not throwing the ball that well, let him run. I'd never considered the Garrett deal. And that I guess backs me up a little bit off of Jerry in terms of how bad he looks in terms of his mouth. If he's putting pressure on Jason Garrett, I'm with him. I just think the way as most people are going to spin it is just going to be on Dak. The perception will be that it was on Dak, and I just think Jerry owes him more than that. But and I'm a Dak supporter. I want Dak to do well.
Right.
I don't care if Jerry Rice and Paul Warfield and Steve Largent were out there. If the ball's hitting the ground before it gets to a receiver's body or hand, that ain't a good look. And Dak had some balls in the dirt that was like blew my mind. And I was wow.
Yeah, it's a bad dynamic, but I'm telling you, we saw it with our own eyes. That dynamic, that culture, the complexion of an offense can change instantly, even without personnel changes. The Rams did it. They got something. Gurley or Zeke, okay, I'll take it. Jared Goff or Dak, okay, I'll take it. And all of a sudden, last to first, that's what Dallas is preaching now. They'll take it.
To our next big story, this one out of Cleveland, where the Browns are off to their best start since 2004 after a tie in week 1. But Hugh Jackson is still trying to fend off a quarterback controversy. Hugh admitted that Tyrod Taylor's performance was, quote, not good enough, but he says Taylor is still his starting quarterback. I think that's the right move. I'm not throwing, I'm not going off script because of one game. I'm not throwing Baker Mayfield out there to get his head ripped off this week when the Browns are going to be overmatched. I'm letting Tyrod Taylor take these beatings early. I'm going to get to my bye week or something. Then I'm going to move Baker Mayfield in. If I move him in at all, I just don't play the Baker card right away.
Look, I don't think it's off script. I think it was written in the script, fine print, that, hey, Tyrod Taylor, a quarterback that's above average because he protects the ball, but not necessarily above average in many other respects. I like the player, but he's not a franchise quarterback going forward, despite being only 29. You drafted that guy at number 1. So I'm the complete flip of you. I came into the season saying, you know what? Tyrod Taylor has to ride this entire thing out, highs and lows. After seeing Baker in the preseason, just glimpses. After seeing Tyrod in week 1, 35% completion percentage. If they had any inspired performance at quarterback, they would have won that game. They would have beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And now I'm sitting there watching a Todd Bowles out there say, you know what? I'm going to throw my guy right out there. Sam Darnold, picked at number 3. He's going out there, and look at how he performed. First play, pick 6. The rest of the game, stellar performance. I see that Baker Mayfield not only has the mental, the moxie, the attributes to deal with adversity, but he can get out of some of those situations and play well. I'm going with him.
Let's remember, Darnold played against the Detroit Lions.
You are low on the Lions. That was nearly a playoff team last year, one game away.
Cleveland played against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Great team.
And so, I want to get Baker on the field at the most opportune time for him to have success. On September 30th, they're going to play the Oakland Raiders.
Okay.
And we just saw the Oakland pass rush. It's non-existent.
It's not there.
Khalil Mack is gone.
Yeah.
And so by the time we get to week 3, 4 down there, who knows what the Raiders' record may be? They got this veteran team. They may see it's not going anywhere. No pass rush, an opportunity for Baker Mayfield to get out there and have success while still giving Hugh Jackson what he wanted. Tyrod Taylor. He wanted a veteran quarterback. He wants to win now. I just think pump the brakes. It's just I don't make any. It's just like we were listening to Cowherd. Cowherd's so happy about Sam Darnold.
I'm with him.
He thinks he's discovered
I'm
gold in the hills. Whatever. He's dead clamping. You know, he done moved to Beverly. And it's one game. And so I say the same thing about what we saw from the Browns and Tyrod. It's one game. I'm not blowing up my game plan.
It's one game, but in that one game, you can learn a lot. And I think you need to channel your inner Sean McDermott, coach of the Buffalo Bills. After one game, realize, you know what? Yep, Josh Allen, you ready or not, here it comes. And you are going in there because Nathan Peterman has been the worst starting quarterback in NFL history. 3 starts and 3 benchings. I'll say it again, 3 starts and 3 benchings. So it wasn't the most difficult decision, but it's time to do like Sean McDermott. Put your youngster in and let's go.
There's a lot of problems in Buffalo beyond Nate Peterman.
Preach.
And so with Josh Allen, I would just be careful. You throwing a young guy out there, get his confidence rattled. I'd maybe continue to let Nate Peterman take that beating before I throw Josh Allen out there. Same thing with Baker Mayfield.
Let's move to Ohio State. Last game of suspension for Urban Meyer. This is the game that they had to add to that suspension to make sure it wasn't just a slap on the wrist. They're taking on TCU, 15th ranked this weekend. Will Ohio State miss Urban Meyer and potentially lose?
They have not missed him yet. Now, granted, their competition has not been stiff. However, it's been 2 Power 5 opponents. Think about it this way. They don't have that FCS cupcake on their schedule, not even a Group of 5 cupcake, and yet they're still second in the country in total offense, second in the country in scoring offense, averaging over 62 points per game. I would argue that this version of Ohio State offensively is even better than when Meyer is on the sideline. And the reason is because they're more vertical in their passing attack. Very similar to when Cardell Jones was winning the national championship with Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. When they're vertical in their passing attack, that's when they're most dangerous. And Dwayne Haskins has done a heck of a job for them. 9 touchdowns so far. I think this is a team that's going to be on Saturday night. I think they're going to beat TCU handily, and people are going to be like, whoa. We're forgetting about Ohio State because of all this coaching talk and the suspension talk, and we're forgetting that the players on the field are some of the best in the country.
Both of you kind of quick, start with you, Joel. If they do dominate TCU, does that take any shine off of Urban Meyer? Any? Does that
ran through my mind as you were answering.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it started to run through my mind. I know it's about the horses, but the jockey
I mean, he got him there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not just – Ryan Day's going to be a star, right? He's the interim coach right now. He's going to be a head coach at this level very soon. It might be next year after what he's doing in this first 3 games. I don't think it takes a shine off. Remember, there's only 4 coaches in all of college football that have won a national championship and only 2 that have won multiple national championships. Urban Meyer's one of those. That's tough to take that shine away.
Would it diminish him at all in your eyes?
It wouldn't, because for a program in college, we always talk about the coach who has to walk on the practice field and see his full recruiting class, all 4 years of that recruiting class come to fruition. It's also about the culture change, and Ohio State's always been a great force, but they've hit another stride. They're in the upper echelon now with Urban Meyer. You don't want to mess with that formula because he's now there.
All right, Joel. Clay Helton is getting destroyed out here in Los Angeles. Colin Cowherd's all the way off the bandwagon. He won't even go to practices anymore.
Wow, it's there, huh?
Is Clay Helton
That's a lot.
already on the hot seat?
He is. But let me just tell you why I bristle at this. Now, he is. The fan base is upset. I don't think Lynn Swann loves this as his head coach, and Lynn Swann is a guy that did not hire Clay Helton. That's a tough position to be in as a head coach. But let me just remind the USC fans that no coach in USC history has gone out in his first 2 full seasons as head coach and won 21 games except for Clay Helton. None of them won the Pac-12 and a Rose Bowl in their first 2 seasons. So this guy has had success. And I was talking to a USC fan this weekend, and they were like, hey, man, when's USC going to win? I'm like, what do you mean, when are they going to win? You're in the midst of a very successful stretch where you won a Rose Bowl, won a Pac-12 title, and they were like, well, no, like Pete. And I'm like, oh, I get it. So you want to be a dynasty all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that's just not reality. We are living in la-la land, and I think USC fans are in la-la land as well.
Oh, I mean, look, it's the Tim Duncan, the Kobe Bryant argument a lot of times. People walk up to you, and they're like, oh, I just want Kobe. And I'm like, why you want Kobe? Because he had higher heights, greater peaks than a consistent excellence. And you talk about Clay Helton has been a consistently excellent coach for the program. But he's understated.
Yep.
You know, he's a great guy of character, and that doesn't always translate to being a marketing machine for a program like USC.
As a writer,
that's the problem.
Marcellus, I'm going to quibble with the use of consistently excellent. Excellent. He's been consistently really good.
Okay, I get it. 3 losses for USC. But
best 2 years.
Thank you.
For opening 2 years for a USC coach ever.
Ever. This is USC. This is that program, and he's been the best of all coaches, at least by the numbers. But he's not winning the PR battles.
They haven't won the playoffs.
No. A lot of teams haven't won the playoffs.
This is a big week.
Let's get to a friend of mine from my former place, and Herm Edwards. I am sold on Herm Edwards, and I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't sold on him before I didn't tell him that. I was just like, Herm, you sure you want to coach instead of broadcast? Okay. But wow, he's translated to the collegiate level smoothly, undefeated right now. You sold on Herm Edwards at ASU?
Here's the thing that I think that got lost in his move back to the sideline is that, let's be honest, Herm was playing a part on television, right? He kind of amped up the character that was Herm Edwards. And I think in the locker room, in particular in college, his energy is infectious. I think he motivates young men. And he clearly motivates them to the point where they're playing really good football at ASU. Who would have thought that in the Pac-12 South, Kevin Sumlin and Chip Kelly would be 0-4 combined and Herm Edwards would be 2-0? Because it was flipped really when we were talking about the sentiment of those hires in the offseason. Jason, I will tell you this about Herm Edwards. He's recruited some young defensive linemen and linebackers that are playing so well. Would it shock you if I told you after playing Michigan State that the #1 rush defense in the country, the ASU Sun Devils? How about that?
I'm going to say this about the character that he played on TV. I think that's authentic. Having covered Herm in Kansas City, and I know Herm a little bit, I don't think that character works in the NFL. I think it works in college football.
It can't wear on you in college football because guys come in, guys come out, the turnover.
They're younger and a little bit more naive.
Yeah,
you get older, you get a little jaded.
Yeah.
And so I think, and I was like you, Marcellus. I was like, he's going to be the CEO. He's going to let everybody else do this or that. I was very skeptical. 2 games in, this is a great story. And you know, Herm's character works.
Yeah.
And let me give you a little left turn since you're the smartest guy in college football.
Uh-oh.
Don't know if you knew this, that Chip Kelly and Dan Mullen both were at Columbia when I was a player.
Were
at
they
Columbia.
really?
Isn't that something?
How about that?
Humble beginnings, as we should say.
You know,
right?
there's so many stories like that in college football.
Let me
You
get
can go back.
something important. You don't need to talk about Columbia football.
I like that.
Ball
Listen.
State nearly upset Notre Dame.
Nearly?
In Notre Dame Stadium. Notre Dame's ranked number 8th in the country. We lose to them by 1 possession. Why is Ball State not ranked? This is a travesty. We should be getting AP points.
Next.
Jerry Jones and Des Bryant were spotted at a Beyonce concert Tuesday night in Dallas.
Hey.
According to my unreliable, fictitious, anonymous sources, when Bey performed Drunk in Love, Jerry and Des stood up, looked into each other's eyes, and said, "How the hell did this ish happen? Oh, baby." Drunk in Love is Des and Jerry's couple song. It was a smash hit in 2014, the year the Cowboys finished 12-4. Des caught a career-high 16 touchdown passes and was in the conversation for the best receiver in the league. That was then. This is now. 5 months after Jones's Cowboys cut ties with the emotional 29-year-old receiver, Des Bryant can't find anyone to love him the way Jerry once did, and Jerry can't find a receiver who can get off the line of scrimmage. Marcellus, you know exactly where this is headed.
You tell me, dog.
The Beyonce concert was the first step towards reconciliation. Jerry is thinking about moving Des back into the house. My sources say Des intentionally left his mouthpiece and cleats in Jerry's house after the concert. We've all done this.
Hate that.
Des and Jerry split up, dated around, and have both reached the conclusion they can't find anything better right now. Notice I didn't say they've fallen back in love. Nope. This is a pair that can't get any action right now, bumped into each other at their favorite nightclub, and went Usher. Love in this club. We've seen Des sashaying from one NFL club to the next, looking for love. He turned down John Harbaugh, Joe Flacco, and the Baltimore Ravens early on, thinking he could do better. He went on a way too casual date with Hugh Jackson and the Browns. Des wore shorts, a T-shirt, and headphones. He says the Browns sent him a contract proposal, but to me, the Browns basically told Des, "Hey, we might give you a booty call later in the season."
Ooh.
Recently, Des has been on social media wildly and aggressively flirting with the Patriots and the Redskins. He tweeted, "If I line up next to Gronk, Hogan, Edelman, I'm for sure getting a one-on-one matchup. Plus, I won't be getting criticized, controlled for expressing my love for the game." Washington is cool as well. Right now, Des Bryant is an IG model posting naked selfies with a personal email address for business purposes only. Jerry's in no better shape. He's a wide receiver sugar daddy who is invested in sweet and slow rather than cane sugar. With Cole Beasley, Allen Hurns, and Deontay Thompson, the Cowboys don't have anyone to take the top off of defense, create running lanes for Ezekiel Elliott, and wide throwing windows for Dak Prescott. Marcellus, I'm old school.
I hear
love
it.
Beyonce, love Usher, but this whole situation really reminds me of the Stylistics. They were an R&B group from Philadelphia in the 1970s. They had a song, Break Up to Make Up. That's all we do. First you love me, then you hate me. It's a game for fools. That pretty much summarizes Jerry and Dez. But the funny thing is, I've been this kind of fool. And if I'm Jerry, I don't move Dez back in. I lease him an apartment for 6 months while I continue to look for my wifey receiver. Dez Bryant makes sense for this season. It's a short-term deal.
What?
He makes sense for this season, Marcellus. You reconcile just for this season because that's the only options on the table.
Man, you got that dude online selling tummy tea and sweet sweat, and you now saying, but that's going to be the one you want to go out with for this year. We went through too much for us to return back to this place. If I'm Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, we cut you for a reason. And that reason is going to be echoed if you start to look at the relationship since that departure. Dez Bryant's been online talking about everything but the Cowboys, and when he does talk about the Cowboys, it's in a negative way, right? So you're looking at this the wrong way. I'm looking at him being with Jerry Jones as not a football move, not an opportunity to get on your roster. If so, he should have been up there with Stephen Jones, because Stephen Jones is the one that's running football operations. Jerry Jones is the face of this franchise now.
Oh.
He's handed those keys over to his son.
You don't think he can get them back? Anytime he wants. He can't.
He doesn't want him back. And I tell you why he doesn't want him back, because he saw him before. And before, Dez was a star receiver in the conversation, greatest playing receiver at the time. Dez has regressed to a place where you talk and laugh at Cole Beasley, but Cole Beasley had a better year than Dez a year ago. Remember those times. So it's a difficult situation if I'm Jerry Jones, because I have a great relationship with all my players. Everyone loves Jerry Jones, including me. I'm a former player. I only played 1 year with the Cowboys. Still love Jerry Jones. And just 2 days ago, Jason, dog, I was out with Dean Spanos and we had dinner.
Yep.
That's an owner
of the Chargers.
Owner of the Chargers, and I was released by the Chargers. I don't want to say cut because we had a good dinner, but he cut me. And we still have a great relationship, man. Go to the games, sit in this box, all that. And no, I'm not an active player, but that relationship has continued even after the sad departure. I think this is just more the same.
Okay, but hold on. Let's stop right there. You can't leave. You're in a different place than Dez in terms of you're out of the league. You've been out of the league. Jerry has to know, is any type of flirtation with Dez, as thirsty as Dez is right now, he's going to read it as, oh, he wants to get back together.
Yeah.
He's going to go to that delusional spot. It's just like why you can't return it. After you broke up, you can't return no text messages for about a year.
Right.
You can't, no missed phone calls. You just have to ignore it all. You do anything in the first year of a breakup, the other person reads it as, oh, I still got a chance.
Oh, okay, but look, Dez, I get it. Dez wants to get back at the Cowboys, but he doesn't want to get back with the Cowboys. He
Dez
want to get back.
wants a check.
He could have took the Baltimore check. He could have went to Cleveland, and instead of wearing the headphones and coming out of the gym, he could have actually walked in there like, yo, give me a job. I'm ready for this. I think Dez wants to show the Cowboys what they're missing, not come back to that roster and say, I'm back and I've arrived.
Why wouldn't Dez have watched last Sunday's game and said, the Cowboys know what they're missing. I know what they're missing. Jerry knows what they're missing. I think Dez and Dallas, unfortunately, need each other right now because they have no other options. But let's take it all off the table then. Why hasn't anyone signed Dez? He's been out here shaking his moneymaker for everybody. And ain't nobody throwing no ones his way.
Right. Look, man, let me hit you with a Wileyism. When personality trumps production, there's a problem. And that's the NFL's
3 Ps of football.
3 Ps of football, brother. That is a problem. And if you see Dez Bryant's production right now, and then you know you're going to hear the echo of that voice and this guy who's showing passion, but it's passion when you're Tom Brady yelling at your coach and you're winning. But when you're not catching the ball to the tune of 50 catches and 600 yards and Cole Beasley's outshining you, and then you over there poking your finger at Dak and Zeke is sitting there rolling his eyes, that's when it's a problem. And I just don't think in terms of chemistry, he's going to fit well with this Cowboys team as it's now Dak and Zeke's team.
Okay, we both sat and watched the Cowboys and the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
And my issue here is just like, what are the solutions? If not Dez, who? Is there someone else on the sideline? Do you go out and make a trade? I see Dez as like the only option. At least he's a name, he's a threat. He couldn't be any worse than what we just saw this past week.
I hate to disagree, but here we go. Dez in the last 2 years had regressed to a place where you were like, wow. Not only overpaid by those standards, but also wasn't fitting in with trying to have a winning culture in the way that they wanted it to go. So what happens? He gets released. And then this is when you know a player wasn't right for you. Oh, I'm coming back next year harder than ever. Oh, I can't wait to see. Wait a minute. In the NFL, because this is not a privilege. This is not just you're going to be handed this as a blessing. You got to earn this every single day. And now this is the year, this is the offseason, this is the time where you're going to start to separate. This is the time we're going to get you off the press coverage. Jazz, we saw you the last 2 years. You didn't want to get off the press coverage then? So you thinking there's going to be a change of behavior, he's going to turn over a new leaf?
No,
it's not.
What did Baltimore see then to even offer him a contract? They got a scouting department. Ozzie Newsome's supposed to be pretty good. John Harbaugh pretty good. They saw something, at least we've been told, that made them think there was some value.
You know how the game goes because I've been there. I played for 4 different teams. This is how it goes. You play for the first team, you're like, look, if y'all don't pay me, I'm out. I'm going to get my big money. Then you play for the second team, you got your big money. If you don't perform, you will get released and land somewhere else, and all they're going to sit there and say, you just needed a change of scenery. You just needed a breath of fresh air. That was Dallas for me. And then I got to practice, and Bill Parcells looked at me in the first practice and said, that's all you got, Wiley? And I was like, yep. And then next thing you know, I'm out of Dallas. I'm telling you, I am not rooting against Dez Bryant. But this is standard operating procedure and behavior of someone who knows the better days are behind them, but still trying to sell the future.
All right, Jerry, leave Dez alone. Don't be leading him on anymore. All right, welcome back. I'm Jason Whitlock. He's Marcellus Wiley. Time for the big stories of the day. Let's start with Thursday Night Football, where the Bengals host the Ravens tonight on the NFL Network. The Ravens demolished the Bills in Week 1 with Lamar Jackson lining up all over the field and even leading a touchdown from under center. Meanwhile, the Bengals took down Andrew Luck and the Colts with a big game from second-year running back Joe Mixon, who A.J. Green says is as good as Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley. All right, 2 young stars, potential young stars, 2 guys, Joe Mixon because of some criminal activity early in his college career, was a controversial draft pick. Lamar Jackson because is he a receiver, is he a quarterback? That controversy, 2 guys that had performed well at the college level, came to the NFL with some controversy. I think Mixon has more upside. I think that, and I'll say this, you love to play the star game in terms of, Joe Mixon was a 5-star guy for a reason coming out of high school, the #1 running back coming out of high school. Lamar Jackson was a 3-star guy. Joe Mixon, without the baggage of what he did in Oklahoma, could have been one of the first 2 or 3 picks in the draft. I think he has the most upside.
You're giving us a talent conversation to talk about. Okay, so you want to go 5 stars, and maybe if you look at Lamar Jackson, he's a later bloomer than Mixon is. But who won the Heisman again? Stars to the side. Who won the Heisman again?
Lamar Jackson.
And then who actually returned the next year and had a better performance but didn't win the Heisman just because his team lost games? The same Lamar Jackson. So I'm going with Lamar Jackson. We're talking potential. You're talking talent. If you're talking potential, not kinetic energy, not what happened in week 1. I'm talking about body of work, watching Lamar Jackson dominate the collegiate level. And then he gets to the pro level, and in his first game, just in impact, just in presence, just in fear of a defensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills sitting there saying, I have to game plan for this dude. 47 points by Baltimore. He lines up all over the field. No, he wasn't always the guy that got the ball and moved the chains, but his presence had an effect.
Presence of Joe Flacco, Michael Crabtree, Willie Snead.
They got it done.
The people that actually got in the end zone.
Right.
I get it. And come on, Marcellus, we know this about a lot of things you do in college don't translate to the NFL.
Yeah.
And so Joe Mixon, from the time he was 10 years old, he ran like a pro running back. There's some
Agreed.
Eric Dickerson in him.
Agreed.
This dude is a beast. You could see it at 10 years old, like, that's an NFL running back. When you watch Lamar Jackson in college, high school, whatever, you're like, that's a great college quarterback potentially. It's very sketchy whether he's a great NFL quarterback. And so that's when I'm talking about NFL upside, and I know we've devalued the running back position.
Yeah.
But having a guy that A.J. Green, which I think he's right, he could be a Gurley, he could be a Le'Veon Bell. That's a lot of upside.
Man, you got to stay on the cutting edge of football. You know all these things happen fast. I get it. You old school, fedora. You keep it in one ring in the ear. I get it. Next level is what Lamar Jackson is. Mike Vick plus. Mike Vick 2.0, more accurate than Mike Vick at the collegiate level, and as fast, if not faster. This dude is blurry. Coaches always say, run the tape. And if someone's blurry on that field, that's the guy that we have to watch out for. Speed kills. That narrative, that montage, that has not left the game. So when I'm looking at Lamar Jackson, his upside, no one else at the quarterback position possesses those qualities. Think about it. Who else has that kind of arm strength? Accurate, mid-50s, high 50s. I don't want to go there, but he has to learn that position. Once he learns that position with that skill set, sky's the limit. Joe Mixon's being compared to other greats, but there could be something greater in Lamar Jackson.
Let's go a tad bit deeper. Let's get a little closer to the ball.
Turn it.
And so, Marcellus, as I sit here as a journalist, and so a lot of times I remove my personal opinions out of the argument because I'm just journalistic. I'm just going to be journalistic.
How you going to do that? You're just completely objective right now.
I try to be. That's the standard as
do
a
or
journalist.
do not. There is no try, but I'm listening.
Right. And so what I'm saying is that I get it, and as a fan, as a sports fan, my first love affair in football was James Harris, the black quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams years ago. That's what captured my attention. And sitting in Indianapolis, I was a Rams fan. I've been rooting for the black quarterback since 1970, whatever. And I sit there and think like, man, one day we're gonna have the athletic quarterback is gonna take over football, and it's gonna be a run. I don't think
Aaron Rodgers is not athletic.
It's still played from the pocket. It's a pocket game. Aaron Rodgers is great. Tom Brady is better. And the guys that can play from the pocket, not risk injury, because again, when they're paying you $150 million, they don't want you hurt. They don't want you out of that pocket. It's still a game about mastering the game from the pocket, and that's where I get it. Am I rooting for Lamar Jackson? Yes. As a journalist, do I step back and say, the way this game is played from the pocket. It's a hard battle for a guy who solved a lot of problems with his legs more than his arms going all the way through.
Warren Moon, black quarterback, stayed in that pocket and threw that dart all day, right? So it's the mobile quarterback. And it's funny because then Aaron Rodgers is not considered a mobile quarterback, but don't let the paint job fool you. Yes, he is a mobile quarterback.
I would agree.
Right.
He's a very rare bird in
Improv.
Comparison to the Drew Breeses, the Peyton Mannings, Tom Brady, the guys
Montana, all
that turn out championships year after year.
You're right.
All right, to a quarterback defenses are afraid of, Drew Brees, whose Saints host the Browns Sunday, and while Brees won't be going head-to-head with Browns' backup quarterback, Baker Mayfield, he did have some high praise for his fellow undersized quarterback, saying, quote, I think he can be a lot better than me. Man, he's got all the tools. He's more athletic. He probably can run around better. He's got a stronger arm. Listen, he's got all the tools. He's got all the tools, but he's got no proof. That's great what he did in college. It's great with his, arm strength and all that other stuff. But he's on the bench behind Tyrod Taylor. Love Drew Brees, but slow down a little bit here with the hyping of Baker Mayfield because someone might hear the comments and say, you're really not hyping Baker Mayfield, you're hyping yourself. Look what I've done, and my arm ain't that strong, and I ain't that fast, and I ain't this, and I ain't that.
Right.
So, Drew, love you to death. Slow down. Pump the brakes here on Baker Mayfield.
Well, I'm with Drew. First, I was there day one. Drew Brees drafted by the San Diego Chargers, and I'm there as a defensive player. And I remember hearing about our second-round choice that year, and everyone was saying, he's accurate, but he doesn't have an arm. He's not very mobile. I don't know how he's going to fit, in part why he dropped to the second round. And we immediately saw him from day one add gifts, add tools to that belt, which made him Drew Brees. But he is now, in a humble way, went back to his beginnings and said, what I am built for and what this dude is built like, that's more over there. And he's right. Baker Mayfield has a better arm. He's more mobile, and he is accurate. He won the Heisman. So I love when we always see a rookie come in the league. It's like, what have you done? Up to this point,
all that I could.
All that I could. Like, I'm on pace to doing a lot if you just allow me a little patience.
Man, you guys throw those verbal bouquets out there real quick. I mean, look, Baker Mayfield was a solid prospect, but in watching Drew Brees as a prospect, that was my first year scouting, there was something different. Like, he lit up the Big Ten, playing in Joe Tiller's offense. He was spectacular. Baker Mayfield has also been spectacular as a collegian. But in watching him in the preseason, he's been okay. But to say that he is going to be a guy that ranks in the top 5 in every major passing category, I'm not ready to give Baker Mayfield that title. Yeah. He hasn't even beat out Tyrod Taylor. I just need to see him play.
You have to tap into what Drew Brees is tapping into. No one told Drew Brees, and I was there, as a second rounder, you're going to be top 5. And so Drew was saying, with my limited skill set, I became top 5. And you have more than me from day one?
But I just don't believe that he has more than Drew Brees. Drew Brees was a national-level tennis player. Got to beat Andy Roddick. I don't see that kind of athleticism from Baker Mayfield. I see him running around. Look, he's not an A-level athlete like a Russell Wilson or a Michael Vick that's undersized. Typically, if you're an undersized player, you have to have some exceptional qualities. I'm still waiting to see what are those exceptional qualities for Baker Mayfield.
Arm strength. Who would you go with? Baker. Accuracy.
I ain't so sure.
Whoa, what? Can we have a combine out here? Do we need to line
I would love to see Baker and Drew over there.
Do you want to see them race? I mean, look, Baker Mayfield, a lot of his greatness in college was the improv, which comes from athleticism. That comes from getting off script and him making things happen outside the pocket.
Marcellus,
that was a lot of athleticism.
I'm so shocked here. You're an Ivy League guy. You're one of the smartest guys to play in the NFL. Drew Brees, man, wins so much up here.
Agreed.
And the rap sheet on Baker is from the video of the cops to the planting the flag in the middle of the field to grabbing his crotch. He's not Drew Brees' equal up here. And so if Drew Brees is a tick slower, a tick lacks arm strength, not as strong, blah, 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 if he can't match him here, it's curtains.
Agreed. And that's not what Drew Brees is saying.
No, I know.
Yeah, Drew Brees is basically saying, you got more than me, and I did a lot. So go get it.
But what I'm saying to Drew Brees is, I want to see this because all that other stuff, look, man, I grew up with the guy with the greatest arm ever.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but it's between the ears that separates these quarterbacks. And so Drew can hype him up all he wants about how fast he is, how strong his arm, and this and that. But we haven't seen proof yet, to me, that he's a mature guy that can run a team day to day to day under the spotlight of being a franchise quarterback.
But that's the toughest part about evaluation, and Bucky could attest to this. The reason why it's always a crapshoot at the draft and the combine is because there's no measuring tape for the heart and for the brain. Like, we don't know if you really care about football anymore. We don't know if you're all in. We don't know if you're going to run through the next wall and the next wall until the end of time.
I just would think that if he was all of what Drew Brees is saying, would he be able to dismiss and knock out Tyrod Taylor in training camp early? Wouldn't there be a glimpse or something where the coaching staff is like, hey, Tyrod, hold on, bro. We're going to let
We didn't have to wait on Drew. We didn't have to wait. Wasn't Drew out there as a rookie?
Well, Doug Flutie was there first, but yeah, he got out there a little bit. Here, Bucky, you're too smart for this. I understand why. Bucky, this is the Jeff Fisher plan. This is what they do.
And what did he do for Jeff Fisher?
They get a quarterback, and then they sit them, and then that buys them time and runway until finally the sky falls, and then they say, okay, put them in, but I get to stay another year, right? Hugh Jackson is doing the Jeff Fisher plan, man. He ain't gonna start that boy from day one and lose his job in the process. No, he's just buying time.
All right, welcome back. Marcellus and I are joined now by Super Bowl champion Mark Schlereth. Let's move to Pittsburgh, where Antonio Brown apologized for threatening to punch reporter and my friend Jesse Washington, who wrote an in-depth piece on Brown's social media presence that rubbed the receiver the wrong way. While I like the way Tomlin handled questions about the social media side of this incident, it seems like every other week there's a new scandal coming out of Pittsburgh, and I think it reflects poorly on Tomlin. This is just another in a laundry list. I think, Mark, you said it earlier this week or at some point that they're a reality television show, and eventually you got to say, you got to question the director. I'm not sure if the Pittsburgh Steelers want a reality television show where every week there's a new controversy, from players criticizing Le'Veon Bell publicly to Le'Veon Bell's Twitter feed to Antonio Brown Facebook Live in the locker room to threatening a reporter over social media. Some of this is going to take a toll on Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys said reality show, because the reality is, the real about Mike Tomlin is he's doing an amazing job at what he can control, which is going out there, coaching his team, and winning ball games. Don't forget.
Tied the Browns last week, but go ahead.
Don't forget, though, last year, all the turmoil, the Facebook controversy after the game and filming Tomlin in a post-game speech and the anthem divided the locker room. They won 13 games. Don't forget that Tomlin, of all...
Oh, you think they were satisfied in Pittsburgh?
I didn't say that. I'm comparing him to his contemporaries.
Right.
And of all active coaches, he's only second to Bill Belichick in win percentage.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin's never had a losing team, never as a head coach. Bill Belichick had 5. So my point is, if you look at Mike Tomlin, you got to separate the signal from the noise. And trust me, the signal is this man is doing an amazing job of coaching these guys.
See, I'm on a different page than you because, yeah, they've won a lot of games, but I would argue over the last 6 years they're the most talented team in football, and they can't get into the playoffs and win consistently in the playoffs. They're that talented. And as far as doing a fantastic job of managing this team, like, I thought the whole Antonio Brown, I'm not going to pay attention to the social media stuff, that's the wrong message to send. Part of your contract when you sign it is to act like an adult. And that deals with the media. It's part of the contract that all of us sign, is you have to you have to cooperate with the media. It's part of what sells this game. And you can't just say, I'm not worried about and I'm not going to pay attention to the social media aspect of that when one of your players is threatening one of your reporters. Like, you cannot do that.
Right.
That is completely inappropriate.
Jacksonville had that issue this offseason, obviously, with Jalen Ramsey and the guys, and in the preseason. They made the suspension. Obviously, it was preseason. Feels like a slap on the wrist. They addressed it. But here's the thing. How are we grading Mike Tomlin? Because if we're grading him based on distractions, then what happened in New England last year? And how would you grade Bill Belichick and what was going on there? They still went to the Super Bowl, but that was a team that was supposed to implode. Everyone was shooting at them and saying it was eroding from the inside. Trainers getting kicked off, team playing everything. How are we grading him?
Let's say that the grade is based on, if me and you did a 100-yard dash, and I ran a 15 flat, and you ran an 11.5, people might still say, man, that's pretty good for Whitlock. He's 50, he's fat as hell. That's pretty good.
Right.
And so, so what I'm saying about Mike Tomlin is, and what Mark is saying is, like, he's Usain Bolt. He's in the Pittsburgh organization with all the tools, and we don't want silver medals. We want Usain Bolt to run through the finish line, get the gold. He's supposed to be an all-time great. That's my thing with Mike. I like Mike Tomlin. Again, I'll still even defend him on the social media thing. I don't think this was the right example with the Antonio Brown deal, but I like his overall message. I think Mike Tomlin is a very good coach. I think he can be an elite and all-time great, and that's where my disappointment is.
My deal with him is, for instance, you should have addressed your players before they had open locker room on Wednesday before the first game and said, Le'Veon Bell, there's a moratorium on speaking about him. We are preparing to play the Cleveland Browns. This is week 1, and we go into battle with who we go into battle with.
Right.
And that guy is, I had a coach, my offensive line coach in Denver, Alex Gibbs. If somebody got hurt or somebody wasn't around, you know what he said about that guy? He's dead. Dude is dead. We move on. The guy's dead. Till he gets here, he's dead. And the fact that you distracted from your preparation to face the Cleveland Browns, and you can't tell me it didn't affect you on Sunday, because I watched the game and I watched Ben Roethlisberger throw picks, and I watched a team that had a lead in the fourth quarter, 21-7, choke it up, just cough it up. Like, you can't. It's so hard to win games in this league, and to have a coach that didn't say, hey guys, we're not going to focus on that. We're only focused on the game. That, to me, that's not how you win championships. And that's a problem for me, because they've got too much talent not to have another couple of championships under their belt.
Well, they've been to 2 Super Bowls, won. This is a coach. Very few coaches can have that said about their resume. And the fact that it's funny, we can't pick on him in terms of wins and losses.
No.
So then we say, well, you should have won more. But it's like, win more where? How? Like, the Patriots have had 5 of the last 17 championships. So you look at the other 12, and they're sprinkled. They're sprinkled out there. There's no one else saying, let me claim
I think
Tomlin
can be on Bill Belichick's level. That's what I want to see, and that's where my criticism comes from. It's like, trust me, it's like if my father was still alive, as great as I've done, no, you can do much better.
Agree with that. Agree with that.
To a guy whose reputation is getting a boost right now, Adrian Peterson. Peterson had a surprisingly big week 1 for the Redskins, but it sounds like he might be feeling himself a little too much, saying he thinks the idea of breaking Emmitt Smith's rushing record is, quote, very realistic. But Peterson's still about 6,000 yards shy of Emmitt and has barely been hanging on in the league the last few years. I think he's delusional here to believe he can still catch Emmitt Smith. He had a great first week with Arizona last year,
Yeah,
too.
remember that?
Yeah, great. And with Emmitt's back. Adrian's back. And remember, when Emmitt went out to Arizona, I think he had a great early start. But anyway, I think Adrian's been a little delusional here. He doesn't have another 6,000 yards in him. He would need 6 seasons to get there, in my opinion. Ain't happening.
Yeah, look, he won't do it. I'm with you there. But he's not crazy for saying he'll try to do it. I mean, there's certain guys we say in the locker room, they're going to ball till they fall. Like, they are all in for the game. And Adrian Peterson is a different beast than most beasts in the NFL. The dude tore up his knee and was playing like 3 days later. Like, didn't care at all. If you know his mental makeup and his physical dynamics, he's like LeBron in that sense, like that grown man strength from day one. You don't get that in the weight room. And then he goes in the weight room and gets that as well. I'm just saying, if he gets the opportunities, that will be a pace of 1,000 yards, which I think is a little excessive in a league where the running back seems minimized. I don't see him getting it, but I see him certainly exhausting all opportunities to try.
I mean, if that offensive line in Washington stays healthy this year, he could have a big season, like a 1,200-yard season. I believe that to be true about him. He is a freak show. Do I think he's going to get another 6,000 yards in this league? No. Would I bet against him? No. Exactly. I remember Darren Woodson telling me a story that Adrian Peterson walks in the locker room of the Dallas Cowboys as a high school player when Darren Woodson was playing for the Cowboys, and the players thought they just signed a new running back. They were like, he's like, he could have come right off the high school field and started for us. He was that dynamic, that big, that strong. He's an absolute freak show. And I know that Jake Gruden said he came in here when we signed him and he put all the kids to shame. What kind of shape he was in, what kind of strength he had. Like, they were all like, oh, man, I got to pick it up.
Right.
So,
yeah, we're like,
I'm not going to give him 6,000 yards, so
No.
I'm with you on that. But I'm like, the guy is a different breed now.
This sounds like the Tom Brady conversation we continuously have, and I've heard people say he's going to fall off a cliff 5 years ago. Okay, in 2 more years he's going to fall off a cliff. Oh, next. Stop looking at the birth certificate all the time. The numbers that matter is what this dude is putting up, and off of 1 week performance, looks like he still has a lot in the tank.
You know, here's what I always say, and I truly believe this. In order to be great, you have to be delusional.
Yeah. Oh,
Even to put your mind in a place to be great, you have to be delusional. I think everybody in the NFL suffers from delusion. Because if they really thought about the game, it's like, man, this is crazy. We're doing this to ourselves.
Yeah.
You
got to be slightly touched.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you do.
And then the guys who are just great they're really touched.
Really touched. Like psychosis, like
Charles
Kobe,
Haley.
Haley and all that stuff. And it's
LT.
And you brought up a great point in talking about why you are delusional. It doesn't start when you get to the NFL. It's to get to the NFL. You're one in a million. You're walking around the neighborhood and you're 11 years old and everybody laughing at you. Oh, keep that ball. Keep playing ball. You look good. I went to your game. They laughing at you. You're not going to make it. And once you make it and you look around and then you become AD, Adrian Peterson in the league, of course the guy's going to believe he could do all things.
All right, so I came up with a little meme for Adrian Peterson off the Nike deal. Believe in delusions, even if it means making a fool of yourself in the media. So,
What? What?
All right. All right, joining us now is a guy who knows a little something about Texas versus USC, Vince Young. Vince, I know it's been a crazy week for you in Austin. Austin's kind of like Muncie, Indiana. I played at Ball State. You were a Texas legend. I was a Ball State legend. This has got to be a crazy week for you in Austin.
Oh, man, it's just a blessing, man, and just to reminisce with my teammates. I even got Lindell White in town with me. I was just with Matt Liner in L.A. 2 days ago, so it's just a good, memorable moment for all of us, but also just happy to see the younger guys get an opportunity to compete and understand how huge the rivalry is now against Texas and USC game.
You're getting inducted into the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame. How excited are you about this honor?
Very excited. I mean, just knowing Coach Brown just went this year as well, and just knowing how much hard work pays off to get to that point. Me being a little skinny kid from Houston, Texas, man, all the hard work that I put in with, my coaches, my trainers, and then just working hard with my teammates, man. It's just a truly great feeling and a blessing.
Yeah, I'm glad, VY, you said how huge this game is. And we all know how huge the program of University of Texas football is. But recently, you guys got dethroned by Texas A&M as college football's most valuable team. How'd you feel about that now y'all second place?
Yeah, it's all good. We gotta share the love. You know what I mean? Texas A&M, we love them guys, but we gotta share the love a little bit.
Share the love? No, you don't want to share the money. I mean, you can share the love, but you guys.
Them numbers are not right, so don't worry about that, big guy.
Oh, okay. You're gonna write the check.
I'm not buying that. Texas A&M on the same level as Texas. I just don't buy it. That seems silly to me. All right, let's talk about this game. Longhorn head coach Tom Herman still needs a signature win to prove he's the right guy in Austin. Agree or disagree?
Well, I mean, I disagree. I mean, Tom has proved himself doing some really good things at U of H and, building his career to where he at today. I don't really buy into it. I just, the whole world saying that he needs to win a big game, but he just only been here for 2 years, and it's not easy to coach at University of Texas. So you got to continue doing what you're doing. Stop worrying about what everybody else is talking about and continue to do what you're doing for the young men over there, is making sure they buying into what you're doing, your coaching, and everything going to fall into play. I always going to have beliefs. They can't do wrong in my eyes. I don't really care what nobody else talking about. Burn orange, took them orange all day.
Right? Vince, you're a great player for this question. We saw Lamar Jackson go out there in week 1 NFL. Used in multiple positions. You know that position. You know how you can affect the game in various ways. You think that they're utilizing him effectively, and will it work?
Yeah, I mean, the game is changing, man. The game is changing, and, I hate to say this, the defense is getting good, and they fast, they moving around. So, the biggest thing is I want Lamar to do is what I told him, man, get with your defensive coordinator, man, and ask him questions. What would you do to me if you was playing me? Take the time out, sit with your defensive line coach, sit with your linebackers coach, sit with your DB coach. Do these things behind the scene when you have time, because when it's your ball when they give you the keys to that starting position job, you have to be ready. But I do like what they're doing with him. They're getting themselves prepared to play. They're using the talent that he has, and everything else is going to fall into play of, making those right reads in the NFL, because it's not easy. When you get that pre-snap read, that ball get in your hand, they might show you one thing and it's a whole total different thing. So it's a fast game. But I really feel like the hard work that he's putting in, he's going to catch on to it, and more reps at practice and in game situation, he's going to continue to get better and better.
Vince, very quickly, and I don't want to stereotype you, but you kind of look like a mix of Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan right now. Did you just get off the golf course, or what's going on here?
Right. I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, right. Man, I had an event going on from the Vince Young Foundation, and got through getting off the golf course and had some Special Olympic kids out there swinging the golf clubs and just having fun with, you know, some USC guys. Lindell White is in town, and my old UT guys, teammates. So just doing some money, raising some money for the community, man. And, you know, always giving back like we always do.
Quickly, Vince, how much does USC beat Texas by this weekend? Quickly.
Oh, that sounds horrible, man. Hey, bro, do not disrespect us like that, man. I will fly up there right now and get up on you, bro.
Thank you, Vince. Great job.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, man.
All right, welcome back. Marcellus and I disagree about a lot, including social media. He loves it. I hate it. Here to convince me that it's not as terrible as I think is our social media manager, Ball State, Warren Central alum.
Yes, sir.
Darnell Smith. Love that shirt you have on, Darnell.
I love the hat you got on.
Can you, first of all, stop the love affair between Ball State. Can you give him his proper title?
What's that?
Two-star recruit.
Two-star
Ball
recruit.
State baller, better than you at Warren
The
Central.
only 5'8", 280-pound nose tackle to ever make all conference
Monster.
history. right. Darnell, what you got?
Yeah, let's start with LeBron James, who just followed his new teammate, JaVale McGee, on Instagram, which got a lot of people pointing out that JaVale had posted almost 3 years ago saying LeBron had blocked him. Are you surprised LeBron would care enough to block JaVale?
I'm shocked.
You shocked?
Literally, because I don't get the whole. I get if someone says something really ridiculous and inappropriate, you block them over Twitter. But blocking another NBA player, I've seen this from these professional athletes. There's a lot of sensitive, tender guys.
Tender?
Tender
That's
guys.
the word?
Yeah, tender. We're very tender.
That's
very
not
tender.
it, man. First of all, you know as a celebrity that
I'm not a celebrity. I'm a journalist. Go ahead.
Oh, that's what you want to say with that hat on? That's how you type? Okay, do you? It's brand cultivation. Social media is used a lot for especially guys like a LeBron, brand cultivation. Now, LeBron's saying, okay, I can't follow everybody. I can't do everything on social media that I want to because I'm brand conscious. And then I can't be associated with even some of you for obvious reasons, whether you're going to be shacking the fool on social media and bringing it to me. It's a little Jay-Z, Kanye, like you my boy, you my dog, make my beats. We can't really hang anymore because we ain't cool with all the Kim K stuff. So I think that LeBron's just like, look, I don't want to be associated with anybody who's not taking this as seriously as I am.
I could be a little bit out of my loop. Do they have a mute button
Yes.
on
Yes.
IG? I know they have it on Twitter.
They do.
Do they have it on IG?
Mute?
Not on Instagram. Not on mute,
You gotta go.
Maybe, if he could mute him, maybe he would have just muted him on Instagram.
Yeah,
But-
what's up with the social media manager not knowing that answer?
Yeah.
I had to think about it for a quick second. It's not a mute button on there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You don't get me to Twitter off.
What's next?
Let's move on to the fastest man on earth, Usain Bolt, who tweeted out a video of him having fun in zero gravity, including smoking some astronauts in a race. Do you think they let him win?
No, they did not let him win. But when you said smoking some astronauts or whatever, I was like, where is he going with this? And who's smoking what?
It is legal. It's legal out here.
You done threw me completely off. But yeah, did they let him win? No, you ain't got to let. He gonna take that.
Thank you. Did Justin Gatlin let him win? Like, Usain Bolt, one, he's still gonna get off on a gun. Whatever the set go, he's out. And two, them strides, man. That dude ate up half that track on the first step. So they ain't let him win. I don't see that.
You know, we're gonna talk to Charlie Dixon after the show and ask about Darnell's drug test before the
man.
job. This smoking thing. But what's next, Darnell?
I'm clean. I'm good.
Fine. All right, welcome back. We're going to end our show every day with our approval ratings, just to give you some context of how we come up with these. These ratings are based on 4 categories: job performance in the moment, all-time great status overall, character, and authenticity. Each ranked on a scale of 0 to 25 for a total range of 0 to 100. Anything between 76 and 100 is exceptional. 66 to 75 is high. 56 to 65 is medium. 46 to 55 is low. And anything 45 and below is just really bad. Makes sense? Here we go. Let's start with Aaron Rodgers. So today, we're looking at Aaron Rodgers, who led the Packers to a 17-point second half comeback after getting carted off the field in the first half with a knee injury. But my ratings for Aaron Rodgers are virtually unchanged. I didn't really go up or down on Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, you did. You went down.
I went up in his all-time great status, a point, because I think this is one of these magical moments that we'll remember about Aaron Rodgers for the rest of his career. Him getting carted off the field, then coming back. It's Willis Reed. It's Michael Jordan's flu game. It's Brett Favre playing on Monday night after his dad dies. Authenticity, though, I went down a point because getting carted off on the field, I think, was a little too much for me. That reminded me of Paul Pierce. So I have Aaron Rodgers at an overall 79. Still exceptional, but authenticity, I'm taking him down a notch.
Okay, I actually got him going up at 81, so overall ranking a little higher than you. This is not a Willis Reed Jordan game. This is not one of those moments that were in the NBA Finals, not week 1 against Mitchell Trubisky playing the Bears. Like
Brett Favre on Monday Night Football is a game we talk about forever, Marcellus.
And I respect that. That's why I gave him an authenticity, a legendary moment, a 23. But here are the issues. 14 in character, too many dudes publicly and not have said, I can't play with Aaron like that. I mean, he's amazing on the field, but it's hard to be around. True or false?
Marcel.
What you got him
14 in character. I got him at 17.
Not too high.
Not exceptionally high, but a 14 in character? What, because he doesn't get along with a few teammates?
Well, it could translate. Look, Aaron Rodgers, most talented quarterback in NFL history, has one ring for what reasons?
Because they won't give him a Khalil Mack, just like I said at the beginning of the show. If they gave him a Robin, he'd have 3 or 4 titles.
God, I love setting these traps because you walk right into them. So then, therefore, let's talk about the tiers of quarterbacks in all-time history. There's tier 1, Brady, Montana, correct? Yes.
John Elway.
Whoa, wait a minute. John Elway is not tier 1.
You're too young.
Okay. Wait a second. That was my idol growing up. Tier 2 for me is a Peyton Manning, a Steve Young. That's tier 2. Then you got tier 3 where I have an Aaron Rodgers in accomplishment.
Did you just list tier? You've thrown me off on a track. You just listed tier 1 and 2, and I still haven't heard the name John Elway.
John Elway is right there with Dan Marino and your boy Aaron Rodgers. Be real about this. In terms of Marino had weapons. Elway took a while to get until he got Terrell Davis for that thing to get over the hump. And we're looking at Aaron Rodgers. I'm not slighting him, but one championship for the most talented quarterback ever, shouldn't that be regarded as a notch or a negative against your resume?
You know what we're going to do tomorrow? We're going to do an approval rating of Ted Thompson, who ran the Green Bay Packers through most of Aaron Rodgers' career.
Okay.
That's who needs to be graded down, because when you're blessed with Aaron Rodgers, the Michael Jordan of basketball, and you can't surround him with the right pieces, the one time you gave him Charles Woodson, what did he do? He got you a Super Bowl.
Wow.
You're talking about something outside of Aaron Rodgers' control. If he had the teammates, he'd be right there with 3 or 4 Super Bowl titles.
I'm not talking about there's an ocean divide between tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. But I remember Peyton Manning not having a ton of assets, not having the offensive line that he desired, not having the defense until they get a Sanders of 1 year healthy. And Peyton Manning said, let's still keep this thing winning and rolling. And Tom Brady makes miracles out of no-namers every week.
Dwight Freeney wants to reach through that TV screen and slap you right now.
Hey, once
Reggie
again,
Wayne,
win-loss impact
Marvin
by
Harrison.
sack artists. Look,
what was it, Watson, Bob? Who was the safety?
You gonna say that Aaron
Bob
Rodgers?
Sanders.
You gonna say Aaron Rodgers hasn't had talent? Are you slighting Jordy Nelson? No, you slighting Jordy Nelson like that?
Yeah, I'm slighting Jordy Nelson. I followed his college career.